What's up, YouTube? So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to be using the Magic Monday just to talk about some of the new cards that are coming out in the Avatar set. So I've been seeing a lot of dialogue back and forth about the Walls of Ba Sing Se and how it's basically this super unbalanced card that's going to break every single format and all this. And I think people are massively overreacting. I do know that it has a lot of interactions. I'm not saying that it won't have any impact, but I think people are massively overstating the impact. So let's just look at the card. Obviously, the card's called Wall of Ba Sing Se. It's an 8 mana CMC. That's not really that important because it's generic, so you can put it in anything basically. And also, you're probably never paying 8 for this. And if you do, you probably got 16 fucking mana already, so it's all good. So we're looking at this. Defender. Other permanents you control have indestructible. That's pretty good. It's not as good as people are saying, I don't think, but it's pretty good. And then we get to the real crux of the issue. The 0/30. So 0/30 means that all Toughness Matters decks just got a massive upgrade. Now, don't get me wrong, this does not have protection. It's very easy to remove. You can use many removal cards to get this off the field. You can use Path to Exile, Swords of Plowshares, literally any artifact removal in green. This thing is not sticking to the board unless you protect it. And at 8 mana, you're not going to have any way to protect it if you're casting it for the mana cost. Now, obviously, there's ways to get around the mana cost, and that's where it will become an issue, I think. Anyways, let's look at some potential other cards that might cause this card to be a problem. So here we have Jaws of Defeat. Now, Jaws of Defeat basically turns Ba Sing Se into 30 damage. The only problem is Jaws of Defeat also does not have protection. So you could, in response to them casting Ba Sing Se, or trying to reanimate it or whatever, blow this up, and then it's not a problem. That being said, that does rely on you having removal exactly when you need it, which isn't always the case, so it could potentially end some games. There will be a few games that you see Jaws of Defeat and you're like, oh, this guy's about to fucking Walls of Ba Sing Se me, and then, you know, you just killed them. Like, honestly, if you see Jaws of Defeat hit the board and you don't expect the Walls of Ba Sing Se to come down and you don't just team up on that guy, you kind of deserve the L. Obviously, this is only for EDH, so if you're playing, like, I don't know, standard or whatever, don't even bother watching this video, because I don't even think the Walls of Ba Sing Se is going to be anywhere near relevant in standard, but we'll see. We also got Phenax. Phenax is indestructible himself. The wall also makes him indestructible a second time, but that doesn't really matter. It just means that you can't remove this guy in response as easily, and it makes it where creatures you control have tap and then mill a bunch of cards. Now, the only way I could see this being relevant is 1, your deck has no interaction, which that means it's a bad deck. 2, your opponent has haste on the board, which, again, you can solve by just interacting with their board. Or 3, if they have some way to infinitely untap, like, I don't know, Paradox Engine. But at that point, like, Paradox Engine is the thing winning the game, not the Walls of Ba Sing Se. Good combination of, you know, mechanics, like, obviously could potentially end the game, but I don't see it being that, like, this insane power creep that people are saying it is. It's still a 5-drop plus an 8-drop. Like, for that same mana, you could have probably ended the fucking game with other cards. Let's be real. Alright, we got Walking Bulwark. This is probably one of the best enablers for this type of deck that you're going to find, which is, you know, it just gains haste and can attack and does damage is equal to its toughness. So you got a really early game card you can play to chump out some attacks, and then once you get the wall down, you can turn it into a 30-30 attacker. Now that could be a problem. That does make this card, that does make the wall way more of a threat. The 30-30 attacker, that's pretty much all your health. If you're playing in standard, that's way more than all your health. But this card doesn't exist in standard, so I'm sure they'll probably print something similar that does give you the, you know, assigns combat damage equal to its toughness at some point in standard, but I'm not really too worried about it because, again, just play something interaction. But yeah, this card could be an enabler for this combo, so it's just something to look out for. You see this come down, you're probably looking for it. This also could technically be a commander include, like if you're running the Walls of Ba Sing Se as a commander, which is going to be very difficult, mind you, because even though it is a legendary creature, it is colorless, so there's not a whole ton of support for it. But this is one card that you could run in that to enable it to actually do some stuff. We also got Tapestry Warden recently, so this is a standard legal card, so this does what I just said. Basically, it makes the wall into an actual threat in standard. So if you do see this come down, I would highly expect to see Wall of Ba Sing Se at some point during that same game. Obviously, you don't have to worry about it too much. It does also make the Wall of Ba Sing Se an even more powerful card for stationing things, because we know that stationing is really powerful, especially with some of the particular lands that we have. So this is something you could look out for. Some kind of wall station engine. I feel like if you see the wall come down and you see you got this guy already on board, you're probably losing the game. But like I said, interaction. Just remove it. Just remove it. There are kill spells in the game. Feed the Pack is a card that I saw that I thought would be kind of funny if you just sacrifice the wall to get like fucking 32 wolves. Obviously, if you get board wipe, you're going to lose either way. So, but it's a funny thing that you could do. And it's an enchantment, so you can kind of recur it if you have some way of, like, you know, putting the wall back on the field over and over again. But if you resolve one of these and your opponent doesn't have a board wipe, they're probably dead. So 60 damage is kind of a lot of damage. Now for commanders, if we're looking at EDH, realistically, we're obviously looking at Arcades, the strategist type decks. This is probably the weakest version of this type of commander that you could see. I mean, Arcades, when he came out, was really good. Arcades himself is really good. In Arcades deck, I feel like you really want to be playing low cost cards just so you can get more draw going. Not something that's 8 mana. Obviously, you are in blue, so you could cheat out the wall with stuff like, you know, show and tell or go infinite with omniscience or something like that. But we're not looking at that potential. We're not looking at that potential stuff. So in terms of a commander, I'd say he's probably like an okay commander, but I don't think this is the deck that's best fit for this card. Obviously, we have the Pride of Hull Clade. If you do have the wall out, it just makes this guy basically free to cast. And if the wall does manage to get through, that's 30 draw power. That's pretty good. There's a lot of cards. If you can't finish the game after that, then, you know, get better. But it also does make you access the blue, so you can put Aqueous Form on your wall so it can get through, guaranteed. Keep that in mind. We've seen a lot of Aqueous Form on Kothis decks, so it's definitely a thing that people think about. So this is a card I think it's really relevant, like super relevant for this commander. She already has the makes your walls do big damage line, just like Arcades, but in addition to that, you can sacrifice a creature and just draw that many cards. So you could literally just be like, I'm gonna draw 30 cards. You don't have to discard anything because its power is 0. For 3 mana, drawing 30 cards seems like kind of busted in my opinion. So this is the commander I think it will be best suited for if you're really going for that wall tribal deck anyways. And then another recent commander we've gotten is Venom. So this doesn't even require you to play the wall. You just can mill it and then exile it, and now your fucking Venom is a 34/34, and it only costs 3 mana. Now this is a card where it's a problem. Obviously you can still remove Venom, but Venom is 4 mana, not 8 mana, and it's a lot less. It's a lot more likely you'll be able to put some kind of protection on him the turn you play him, or the turn after you play him. Venom is a very good, I think, target for putting this thing into. We could talk about some other stuff here. Obviously, we've got Reanimate. This is going to be the card I think that primarily is going to get wall on the field in black. Like, Reanimate is obviously broken. Reanimating a 0/30 that gives everything indestructible is insanely broken, especially in black, where you can then proceed to board wipe only your opponent. Obviously, you'll lose the wall in that process, but a one-sided board wipe is pretty much worth. So that's where I would see a lot of these free walls coming from, is just straight up Reanimation. Obviously it's not technically free, but it's close enough, let's be real. Other places you can see it is, like I said, show and tell, omniscience, that kind of thing. Galta, you know, putting any number of creatures. Wall is a creature, so could come down from a Galta. Let's talk about some removal options. You got Croson Grip. Obviously, classic and an artifact removal. Wall's an artifact, so you can use this. Can't be countered, so bye-bye wall. Obviously, we've got some other split-second cards, too, like Vats, if you're in EDH. Can't use this on Arena, because it doesn't exist on Arena, but it does exist in EDH, and technically, you can just target the wall. You don't have to target 2 different creatures. So Bats is another option for removal. That's in black. Can't be countered. Siege Smash. Destroy target artifact. can't be countered. And I can do this all day long. So much interaction. And this is just specifically the stuff that cannot be countered or interacted with, by the way. There's still plenty of ways that you can, remove this card. Like I said, Swords to Plowshares, very valid. This thing is 8 mana. If your opponent casts this for 8 mana and you do not remove this and you let your opponent untap, it is your fault you lost the game. Your deck building was not good. Will this card reshape the meta? I don't think so. Will it find a home in lots of decks? Absolutely. I think it's a similar situation to the Jumbo Cactuar, where everybody saw 9,999 power and they started freaking the absolute fuck out. And since that card been released, I've seen it on Arena maybe one time. Maybe. Like it was there, it won one game against me. That's because I didn't have any interaction for it when it came down. And obviously, yeah, if you're in a situation where you're not expecting something to happen and it happens, then yeah, you can lose to that. But like it could have been any card. It didn't have to be a Jumbo Cactuar in that instance. Like if they had played Alta, it probably would have ended the game at the same time. And let's be real about the stat line thing. Everybody's freaking out about oh, it's got 30 toughness. Like you realize that in the time you play this, a Mossborn Hydra can have like 128 toughness by just playing regular land drops without any acceleration. So I don't think the toughness actually matters as much as people says it does. If toughness was actually that important, we would see way more people utilizing the cards that double your creature's power and toughness or put a bunch of counters on things in toughness matters decks, but we don't. And the reason is because almost every wall is really thick or really cheap. You've got a 0/7 for 2 mana. That's a lot of stat line. A 7/7 for 2 is ridiculous. A 30/30 for 8, it's good, but it's like massively overkill, and you've paid 8 mana for it and it doesn't protect itself. So you either gotta equip this thing with some hexproof or you gotta leave open mana to protect it with some kind of an instant speed spell or an enchantment or something. Which means if you're holding it open, you're either not playing this on 8, you're playing it much later, or you're cheating this out somehow. And if you're cheating this out somehow, why not just cheat out a better card like an Emrakul, where you can just take an extra turn and have a 15/15 flyer with protection from everything? That's going to end the game immediately. You don't need a combo piece for that. Anyways, that's pretty much it. If you like the video, leave a like. Comment below what your thoughts are on the whole controversy about this card, what other cards you can see this being broken with, and subscribe for future content. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.